There you go. Now let me see if I can find a link. I'm gonna post this thing over. Well, I can find it over here on X and just keep reposting it. Can't I? So I'm live right now. Hopefully, it's actually working a little bit better than it was just a second ago. Something was going on. I think what it was is I was trying to use a previously recorded show to go live at a different time slot. That wasn't going to happen. All right, so let me go to my home page over here. There's a lot of posts on this side. Okay, for a decent Glenn Beck. Okay, Glenn. Let's go over here and check this out. I'm live right now. Oh yeah, look at that somewhere. There it is. We're live right there. Let me see if I can share this. Copy the link. And I'm going to share it a different way. Share via post this. Okay, post. There we go. Post. I've got the link too. Copy the link. Copy the link. And we'll put it in different places throughout X, okay? Just to see what happens down here. Let me get rid of some of the stuff up here. I don't know who's watching all of that, but let's see. So it is the 6 o'clock hour in the evening. This is Cassandra Williamson coming to you from Mudlick Road in Pike County, Kentucky. And yeah, I'm just perusing over on X and stuff like that. I need to find other news things to refer to because there's just some garbage over there. Okay. Everybody got that. We all several. I mean, I've been absolutely inundated in comment on X, and I haven't had time to deal with all of them. I don't even want to deal with all of them. Why should I, right? Why should I? All right. Oh goodness. There's really, I mean, these people are crazy. This Joshua Himes, he calls himself a devout Christian, but yet espouses dehumanizing of other groups of people because he doesn't like them and they don't match his vision of his holy text. Josh, you're an idiot. Anyway, so all kinds of comments over there. Do I even want to deal with any of those things? Out of Mudlick, Elon Rose, Forshan, yeah, somebody likes your reply. Joe, please give your doctorate and PhD back. You apparently did not pay attention in class. Talking about Joel Weebon. Tissue replying to me about what? Let me see. Somebody replied to me about something. Let me see what I said that would get that going for them. Oh, I was talking about the Miami thing down there where they stripped out the pride colored intersection and put it in tarmac color. Yeah, there's just no color in these people's lives. Yeah, handing me a tissue. Okay, cool. That's fine. Whatever. I don't need it. You do, apparently. Okay, dokie. Reposted my reply. Somebody, John Smith, reposted my reply. No. Why? Every single one of those amazing Americans are better qualified to serve in America than little Petey. They did their jobs well. They posed no threat to unit cohesion, morale, lethality, but were a threat to Doug Wilson and Joel Weebon and Matt Walsh and others over there in the ditch on the far right. I mean, that's what we're talking about, right? That's who were they offended. It's not because they weren't capable of doing their jobs. They weren't doing I'm talking about transgender people in the military. Okay, whatever. Replying to Jane. Okay, James McDonald. Let me see what they put over here for absolutely. Oh, no. Okay. Person maybe agrees. I don't know. It's hard to tell sometimes. Anyway, That's what's been happening today. I'm a little tired again. I don't know what it was. I drove down the road today. I took my sister to the doctor, and it's about a 35-minute drive basically to get there, to go from Hardy in Pike County to Pikeville, the county seat of Pike County, and get there. And the doctor was really was actually a pretty intelligent person. I could carry on a conversation with this person, this doctor, and we had fun conversing back and forth, talking about things my sister needed to address, and some of the issues she's facing, and that she's still throwing up, has massive problems with um, heartburn. That is not, it's more than just heartburn. It's stomach acids that are coming up and exacerbating a 2 centimeter large hiatal hernia, and it doesn't take much to do that, to irritate it. So, but nothing has been working. They know it. They saw all the stuff. They looked at it back in July, with an endoscopy examination, and they looked at it and they found that was there. So they've been trying to work with different things to get that to calm down for her. And the challenge is that it may help for just a little while, but as soon as she becomes acclimated to that particular medicine, then it does nothing again. It stops. So the solutions are becoming more and more limited for her. There are some very specialized medicines out there that do a better job at regulating stomach acids, and so I'll have to pick some up from the pharmacy tomorrow morning if they got it in, and we'll see how that turns out. If they got it, I don't know if they carry it or not, but these are specialized things that can help calm down those stomach acids, because that's essentially what's happening is the acids are moving up out of the stomach and into that hernia spot. Then it causes immediate flare up of pain and throwing up and nauseousness and all of it. It's mostly just throwing up more than nauseousness, I suspect. But so I spent a lot of time in the middle of the night hearing an alarm, my medical alert alarm that comes from her room or my mom's room, and or my brother, and so I end up running there a lot to check on them. Mostly for Irma, though, it's like she's not able to get up and move freely around the room herself easily, because has to get into a wheelchair first to be able to do it. But she has a room so organized and so well laid out that everything has its particular place. So whenever she decides to call it an evening, everything's got its place, including the trash can. So in the middle of the night, I get an alarm. I go in there, and all she does is she points back to the back wall where the trash can's at. So, but I don't mind. I do get very little rest like that, but it's still, that's just a part of it, I guess. If you're a caregiver for somebody, the whole package deal comes along with it. And there's lots and lots and lots of dirty towels and stuff that I have to deal with in the bathroom for her and mom also with her bed and bedding and things like that too. So these are all issues and things that go on in a daily life of a person who is the biggest threat to American civility and decency and humanity and a continuous childbearing future. Trans people. Doesn't matter that I've got 4 kids, 8 grandkids already, I guess. So I don't need any more. Besides, I'm 66. I'm going to let my kids raise their kids. Been there, done that. I've got an amazing family. I really do. We've got a very supportive family. Yeah, everybody's got their quirks and idiosyncrasies and all that kind of stuff in it. But I've been very fortunate to have a family that cares enough about me to make sure that I'm well. And I didn't know that my daughter was actually one of the people on the program today when I was making the apple stack cake, which I'm looking back on the footage of it, and then her comments are in there. And I'm like, well, hi, Jordan. So I love it. I love it. I love it. I'm glad that, they have very good lives. They're very successful. I'm very proud of my kids and my grandkids and all that. I wish I could see them more, but I tried that this past weekend. I had to go down to Florida to see a friend who is not doing well, is 80 years old, was a Vietnam era veteran, jumped out of perfectly good airplanes, had been going through chemotherapy for some cancer for the past number of months. I'm not sure how long, 5-6 months, maybe something like that, but had been going through all of that, and that's stopped now because it's no longer beneficial for her. It's kind of tough at this place because now you know that what's left is she's in hospice. She didn't recognize me when I went down there, at least not that I'm aware of. I couldn't tell. So here she is, this veteran, this person who has served in combat, who has served in places that most people here in this country would never understand or have any kind of appreciation for, to understand what it was like. I didn't serve there, but she did. She came home after 125 jumps out of those perfectly good airplanes. And then had her own businesses, went into trucking, stuff like that for a while. All kinds of different things. She was into a lot of different things. And so I haven't heard how things are going with her this week. I drove down from Pike County, Kentucky, down to Clinton, South Carolina, stayed overnight, finished driving down to Lake City, Florida on Saturday morning, this past Saturday. And I'm telling you, it was hard for me to stay awake. I was really struggling. Even today, driving my daughter around in the car to the hospital and stuff for her appointments, it's like my body is just shutting down. And she's going, "Oh my God, you're just tired. Come on." And it's a shake my head to wake up. And but that trip down to Lake City, Florida, to the VA facility there, I got there a little afternoon, probably about 1-ish or so in the afternoon on Saturday morning. Stayed an hour and a half or so, something like that. And then I attempted to drive from there to Tuscaloosa, Alabama, where my 2 daughters and 2 grandchildren live, and the in-laws and outlaws that live down there. And I didn't quite make it. I made it over to Midway out west I-10. And I did want to stop in and see, at least wave at Ron D. Sanctimonious down there, because that guy's a jerk too. So I did want to do that, but I didn't get to. So I ended up at Midway, and I'm going to tell you, I got off the highway, I got off the interstate, and I'm turning along, and I was thinking to myself that there was a gas station there that I was going to go to, but I made a turn, and I don't remember why I even turned in that direction, but when I realized what I was doing, I was looking at a hotel, and that's the only thing there. There was no gas station. So I said to myself, "Self, I think this might be a sign." So I pulled into the hospital and got myself a room and stayed there all night. And I was there early. It was like 5 or 6 in the evening, but I could not go another foot. Got in that room and I'm just zoned out completely. It's just like, oh my God. Couldn't even think clearly at that point. Got up the next day and I thought maybe, well, I got some rest. So I went over to a Denny's and had a what did I have a Grand Slam breakfast? No, I had something else because the Grand Slams have changed quite a bit since my college days. So I went in and had a breakfast there, and a wonderful person I talked to behind the counter. She was a retired truck driver, but she was working there as a server at the restaurant. And they have all these license plates up on the wall in this particular Denny's, and they're from all across the country, different license plates for states in the nation. And they had things like Hawaii and, the East Coast, West Coast, couple in the middle. They had stuff like that, but they didn't have all 50 plus. I say 50 plus because there's, Washington, D.C. and Puerto Rico and, the protectorates that we have out in the Pacific and down in the Caribbean, Virgin Islands and so forth. Yeah, they didn't have all those licenses. But so I said, yeah, have you been to most of those? And she said, yeah. She said, I've been to all the lower 48 states. And she said, when I was a truck driver, she said, I drove all across the country. and visit them all of them. And she said, the only two I've got left is Hawaii and Alaska. So we shook hands and hugged because those are the only two I have left as well, except for the other ones. I've been, obviously DC is included in all that, but so, and I should have said the lower 49. There's 48 states, but there's one other that's the capital. But I'd love to get down to Puerto Rico. I want to go over to the Solomon Islands even. I'd love to go out to places like Bikini Atoll because that's where Dad built platforms to blow up atomic bombs and check them out. I'd love to go out there just to see what they look like now. And I know I can go check it online and go look at it, but there's nothing like walking in the place where people have walked. The people who have walked there. And that's the same reason I would love to go down to St. Kitts and Nevis in the Southern Caribbean because, Alexander Hamilton was born there in about 1750-ish. And I'd love to go down there and walk in his steps. Now, I didn't know him or his family, but I found him to be one of the most intelligent of our founding fathers, even though he was a young man when he came to the United States in like 1774 to New York University at the time. I think it's New York City or something. It's Columbia University today. But when he was asked to go there, somebody paid his way to get there, provided an opportunity for him to get there. He was still a young man, so he would not have known Thomas Jefferson and all that bunch at that point in time. But he would have. Once the Revolutionary War started, he did form a militia unit on the campus and got himself a commission and into the Continental Army. And then it took off from there because the man was brilliant. And so, never once owned slaves, never supported it at all, was an abolitionist completely through and through. But he wanted a federalist form of government so badly that he compromised his principles on that issue. And so did Thomas Jefferson, who compromised his principles as well. Jefferson did own slaves, but he knew it was wrong. He stated so many times. And so, anyway, that's just me wandering around and thinking. That's what it was like when I was driving down through Florida trying to get up to Tuscaloosa to see my kids. I just talked, and it was a rambling kind of conversation. And so then we make it to Tuscaloosa and meet up with the kids. We had us a breakfast at Metro Diner at the Midtown Plaza in Tuscaloosa. And oh my God, I haven't had a really good Eggs Benedict. It was a San Francisco Eggs Benedict in a while. They changed it slightly though. It used to be, I used to be able to walk into the Metro Diner there in Tuscaloosa and they'd go, "Cassandra, you having your usual today?" And I would always go, yes, absolutely. I've tried the other stuff, but I'm just going to go with my usual. So I go sit down and they'd bring out a San Francisco Benedict and a Coke, and it had hash browns on the side and all that. I mean, every time I walked in, they knew that. But I haven't been back in a couple of years now. This time, though, when I did ask for that, but it came back, there was a slight difference. There was a couple of differences, actually, where they just slimmed down on costs. They were saving money. I could tell that that's what they were doing, and also making their jobs a little bit easier and making it so that it would last a little bit longer, too. Because rather than give me a slice of avocado, which was typically what was on the original version, this time it was mashed up. It was a pureed kind of avocado spread almost that was on there. And it had tomatoes and stuff on there like it should have, and the bread and in there. But then it had the poached egg on the top, with the meat underneath all of that, and some hollandaise sauce on the top. A couple of years ago, the hollandaise sauce would have covered the whole egg and dripped down over the Benedict. Just draping it. It was really pretty. You could put, Cajun seasoning sauce on it or whatever, and it would be just stunning and tasteful, very tasty. So this time, though, the hollandaise sauce was just on the top of the egg. Like if you take this microphone and here's the egg, It was just right there, just a little bit, just a dab put on the top of this egg. And usually I have two, so the other one also had that on there. Just a little bit of hollandaise sauce on it. I mean, it was still good. It was still great. Don't get me wrong. I loved it. I mean, I missed that, but kind of had my hopes set on getting the one that was smothered and all of that. But it had changed, and the person who had been there before is no longer there, so that obviously it changed quite a bit. So anyway, and I got some good pictures and photos with my kids and grandkids. We stepped out of the restaurant and went to the next door over, and it was a vacant eye clinic with signage on the front. So I just asked the patron walking by, I said, "Hey, would you get a picture of us?" And my daughters are like, "No, that's how you do it right there." My grandkids were like, "Did you just ask them to take a picture of us?" And I said, "Yeah, of course." Hey, also, I don't have my tripod nor my remote. So just ask somebody else to be the tripod and the remote. Worked. So I didn't have time to hang out with anybody else. So I had to get back to Kentucky, and I drove back from there. And I'm going to tell you, it was a long, long, long drive. And I bought myself some of those 5-hour energy drink things, thinking that will work. But I'm going to tell you, that didn't work. That didn't work at all. That was just a bad taste in my mouth. So I went to a Walmart and I found some Vivarin, Vivarin, Vivarin. And they have like 200 milligrams of caffeine in them, and you go like, you're wired. I'm trying to stay awake because I have to get back. I have to get back to Eastern Kentucky because my family who were stepping in while I was gone needed to be at work Monday morning. And they have kids and grandkids who needed to be in school. So here it is. I'm in a rush to get back to mom, brother, and sister so that my other sister can leave on time so she can rest for work on Monday. So I'm in a big hurry. The Vivarin worked on the first pill. And it said, don't take any more than this within a 3 to 5 hour period or something. It should work like that. Well, it worked for 3 hours. I held on for another 2. I took it again, and it didn't work that time. I must have been so tired. Oh my gosh. Maybe it's just because I'm getting older or something, but I'm going to tell you, it was like, I don't want to do a trip like that ever again because that'll wipe me out. Now, I could probably handle one that I know that I could go drive 5 hours somewhere or 4 hours somewhere and stop and take a break or even stay overnight, get up the next morning and be refreshed and not be rushed to get somewhere, to get back to something. Then I can stay on the road for months. I've done it. I know that. I know I can. At least back in my younger days. Things may have changed slightly since then. But anyway, so today here we are. Got sister to the hospital. We're going to have to deal with some other issues with her esophagus and things, with changing medicines to see if that works. Mom's feeling particularly weak. It seems like I've checked her blood sugar and all this kind of stuff. She's just run down and tired, and I got her to sit down on one of our other recliners, and she sit there, and she said, I told her I had to get up and go clean up the kitchen where I'd made the cakes for the apple stack cake. And those are cooling off now, by the way, with all kinds of colors and stuff. It's going to be really good. But I want it to be perfectly cool. But I also wanted to clean up the kitchen again. I've got food in the oven, and it's probably about time, maybe, for this for the spaghetti to come out of the oven. So here we are, folks. We are in an amazing day today. I've neglected to talk about a lot of the things that have happened on this day. And there's a reason why I've been a little reluctant to talk a lot about some of the stuff that's going on, because I'm deeply concerned that it might not last. And in today's environment, any peace deals, I know the players in this. At least I know their thinking, their ideological underpinning. And all I can say is I hope that there is no way for them to ever, ever, ever rebuild a power base in Gaza ever again. I'm talking about Hamas, Hezbollah, the Palestinian authorities. These people have one goal in mind, and that is the, the utter destruction of Israel. Yeah, a lot of civilians have lost their lives in Gaza, and that is horrendous, and it's bad, and it's disgusting, really, and sad, deeply saddening that so many people have lost their lives. But Hamas is the reason that happened. They're the ones who went after Israel. They wanted Israel's destruction. This kind of ideology has wanted the destruction of Israel for 3,000 years, folks. They're not going to change their mind because they sign a piece of paper. As a matter of fact, that piece of paper means squat to them. Their text, their holy text, even says that it's all right to lie, cheat, and steal against people who are not Muslim, because you're not going to be held responsible for those actions. Those are the people who need to be Muslim. If you can convert them, fine. If you can get them over the head and make them become Muslim, that's fine too. Then you can respect them. Maybe, probably, maybe not. So Hamas is a bad organization. So is Shia theocracy in Iran. So are the Houthis down in Yemen. They surround themselves by civilians so that if they're ever attacked, the civilians are the ones who will take the brunt of the fall. And also so it gives them some propaganda value with the civilians. So the loss of life in Gaza is absolutely disgusting and horrible. It really is. It really is. And it needs to stop. There's no doubt of that. But it can't be by allowing Hamas to reconstitute itself. That ideology does not respect people who they don't like, who they think are less than them. And you can take that analogy right there, just what I just said. You can take that analogy and put it over on the right in the United States, where they have dehumanized trans people, demonized them for literally decades, and put a bullseye on the back of trans people. And then have the gall to say that the left is dehumanizing ICE agents and federal agents and our people out there trying to protect federal property, and that it has to stop before there's loss of life of an ICE agent somewhere or a police officer somewhere. Well, I'm going to tell you something. They have spent decades dehumanizing trans people, and it comes back to haunt them. And now you have Ken Paxton down in Texas going, I'm going to infiltrate these groups, transgender groups and Antifa groups. And today he's going to take on, what was that? I saw it today. He was taking on one of the platforms out there, social media platforms that he said is to blame for their enabling Antifa and other things to get a foothold and raise money and stuff. Shoot, I know what it is. I used to have the thing. Anyway, I'm tired. I am. I need to go check on some spaghetti I had in the oven. It's hard to have a conversation when you're just so run down all the time, but it's a psychological rundown. And that's the game, isn't it? So somehow or the other, we have to maintain our strength and our energy. And all I can think of doing is to turn the tables against people like Paxton, against people like Miller and Kristi Noem, Kash Patel, Dan Bongino, Tom Hogan. You can turn it on them, but without being violent about it. When Ken Paxton announces he's starting an investigation into these organizations, we ought to have thousands and thousands of people registering with the state saying that they are one of these organizations. But people who can do that are the ones who have enough privilege to be able to pull that off, who can be safe in their communities and who know it. And the rest of us can stand in the gap for all of them. And that's why I do things like Stand with Cassandra and that kind of stuff out there, because I know but there are people who cannot be in public. And to me, I am way beyond worrying about any of those things, folks. I am confident in who I am. I walk in that everywhere I go. The other day, I had these two magnets. One was a Marine Corps magnet, about that big around, a Marine Corps magnet, and a U.S. Navy magnet. It goes on the back of your car. Pretty strong little magnets. And so I took them into Walmart and gave them to my friend who's a greeter there, who is an Army veteran. And I know that he already has those things on his vehicle, but I said, hey, look, when some veteran comes through here and you know it, he obviously gets to talk with a lot of people as a greeter there. I said, just keep these things on you and give it to them if they want one, you know, a Marine one or the Navy one or whatever. Just pass those things around. I do things like that. And when I'm talking to the doctor today about my sister's medical needs and stuff, I always try to keep it humorous and funny. And the thing that they could see me, they know this, they hear me. And then I'm going, oh, and by the way, as we get ready to leave and stuff, I said, by the way, just make sure that whenever you note it in your records that you had an opportunity to talk with a trans terrorist from Mudlick. And then the doctor said, I will remember that. So turn the tables on them, folks. Whenever you have Seaman Apprentice Ronnie Jackson, representative from down there in Texas, and Weather Vane Nancy Mace, all saying to the FBI that we need to arrest every trans person in the country, and they did say that. And they need to institutionalize all of them, and they did say that. And you need to stop them from having access to the internet and any kind of communications platforms. And that's what they told the FBI that they wanted done a couple weeks ago. And so my point is, when I'm sending out stuff over here on social media, when I'm talking to people and sending out emails, guess who gets the emails? Guess who gets the notifications in their social media streams? The FBI, the CIA, anybody I can tag in there, Homeland Security, Justice Department, Department of Veterans Affairs, the President's Office, Secretary of War Pete Hegseth, and anyone and everyone. I do everything I can to tag them, and I go, hey, look, put me at the top of your list, folks. Come on, put me in there. So all across this country, we ought to have trans people who are responding in that way to everything that they are saying. Inundate their systems, swamp their systems, make sure their systems cannot function because you have good human beings trying to protect themselves from other human beings. Anyway, I need to go check on the food. I said that 10 minutes ago. I'm still talking. See you tomorrow.